right. So thank you, Shannon Ingle, co-owner of Ink and Leaf, for meeting to talk with me today. Let's go ahead and just get started with sort of the basics. What is the concept behind Ink and Leaf?
So how it started was I had my plant shop in Meridian, Coffee Plant Repeat, and then my daughter had her salon, Stature Salon in Boise, and she was moving over into adding the cosmetic tattooing into her services. And she was looking for a location in Boise to add that. And she found a location that had an additional space where she just said, I have this additional space and I was wanting to expand into the Boise area. And we kind of were just like joking around and we are like, what if I added my plants in there? And then we were like, wait a minute, what if I added my plants in there? And we were like, well, I think I said, what if we called it Leaf and Ink? And she was like, well, what if we call it Ink and Leaf? And then it kind of happened. And then boom, there it was. And I told her about this shop I saw on TikTok, I think in Seattle, where it was like tattooing and plants and it was really cool. And so she looked at it and we were like, well, there's nothing like that in Boise. And so even though it's not full on tattooing yet, eventually we would like it to be more than just cosmetic tattooing. She would, because she's actually done a apprenticeship for full tattooing before. But right now it's just she's offering lip blushing. And then in the fall, she's going to offer the nano brows, that tattooing as well. But so right now it's just the cosmetic tattooing, but she would like to expand further later. So that's how the idea came to be. And that's how the name came to be. So
what are so cosmetic tattooing on the ink side, and then on the leaf side, what's the product you sell? Obviously plants.
Yeah. And then the accessories, the pots, the accessories for the plants. Yeah.
Is there any specific type of plant that you tend to carry, or like plants that have any kind of specific types of attributes or features?
There's a lot of basic house plants, and then I do bring in some more of the rare too, as many as I can. Yeah.
Okay. And what is the price point on both sides of the house? I'm sure that it ranges.
I don't know the price point for the lip blushing or the nano brows. There is a full menu list for the aesthetic side and her cosmetic tattooing on the website that you could access. But on the plant side, really it ranges anywhere from $10 up to, I've had Thai constellations, which are really rare monstera, and those can go up to like $500. So on the plant side, it can go from one extreme to the other. So there's really a plant for everybody, from collectors to the people just looking to get started.
So speaking to that, what are the types of users that come in looking for plants? So you mentioned people who are just getting started and collectors. Are those the two main categories, or would you say there's more?
It really spans. There's people that come in that say, I'm just getting started and I've never had a plant before, and I can find them a plant that literally is absolutely hard to kill. Like you just water them once a month and leave them alone. Or there's people that come in that have literally every single plant and they're looking for a really rare plant to add to their collection. And then everybody in between. There's a whole span of customers.
And in terms of demographics, is it male, female, young, different kinds of generations?
Male, female, all generations, plant daddies, people shopping for their friends and family, people bringing in their friends to get them started with their plant collections. It's really everybody.
Do you get a significant number of gift purchasers?
Some, but that's usually that's like gift cards, because people don't really know which plants to buy for their friends unless they really know their friends' collections, what they have and what their skill set is for taking care of plants, or if they know their friend is looking for a very specific plant, but then usually they'll just purchase a gift card for their friend.
Okay, so you do offer gift cards.
Yes. Yeah.
And then on the ink side, if you can speak to this, so you mentioned that there are a few options, the lip blushing, and there will be a few other options that are added. And there's several, I'm not sure the right term, stylists or ink artists who do these services.
Shelby does the the cosmetic tattooing. And then there are other booth renters in there. One girl does some eyelashes, and then another girl does like tooth gems that are temporary gems that'll adhere to your teeth. And there's another girl that just moved in that does another service that I apologize. She's very new, so I don't know what her services are yet. But again, she will be added onto the website as well.
Is the idea that each of the different service providers do different types of services? Okay.
Yeah.
So they're not directly competing with each other for clients.
Yeah.
Okay. So did you play a role in the website design and that?
Well, did all of that.
Okay.
Yeah. And then for each person that's in there, there's a little summary of a little like about me in there and what they offer. And then there's a picture of each person, like this is me, this is what I do. Yeah.
Okay. So for the ink side, if someone wants to set up an appointment, do they usually do that online, or do you do walk-ins or both?
No, for the aesthetic side, the ink side, they would book online with yeah.
And then what does that experience look like? Is it, 15 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, depending on the service?
Yeah. So the cosmetic tattooing would take a bit longer. And then it gives information online as to what the service is. And then they would speak directly with the person that they book with.
Okay.
So, and the person that they book with would watch directly for them to come in, and they would be greeted by that person. And then they would go and interact directly with that person.
And then, so I asked this about the leaf side. On the ink side, is there a specific type of consumer who is interested in cosmetic services? Is it typically skewing female or different generation?
Yeah. I mean, mainly female, the tooth gems. I think I've seen a few male clients in there for those so far. I'm not there all the time though, so I don't see everybody that comes in. I think age range that I've seen so far is like 18 to probably like 45. So it's a pretty big age range for the services.
Okay. And
But
who?
A good crossover. Like there's a lot of people that shop in the plant store and then they go over and get services. So there's a good crossover.
That was going to be my next question about kind of the cross pollination. Do people come in for one and then become interested in the other?
There's a lot of my clients, plant shoppers, that would come in and shop and then, oh, what's going on over here? And then I would let them know, and then they would go over and book.
Okay. Yeah. So thinking about different sort of journeys to these different products and services, some people come in and say, okay, I want a plant, I'm going to get a plant. And then they hear about, and then vice versa. Some people come in and say, I want this service. Oh, there's also plants. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. It's a good little crossover between mine and Shelby's clients that are like, oh, while I'm here, I'll just grab a plant before I leave. Or my clients will come in and shop for plants and then be like, oh, what's going on over here? Oh, I actually have always thought about, I was always interested in what lip blushing was, or I've always wanted to get a lash lift, and then they'll book something before they leave.
To what extent do you think education with some of those, the consumers who are coming in who know what they want, I've heard of lip blushing, I want this, they already know. The consumers who are coming in first for plants, then they learn about these other things. Is there a little bit of an education and information like provision process where they're learning about this service for the first time?
Yes, because I think especially with like the lip blushing, I think people are a little timid about it, where we found when Shelby did her demonstration and she puts the videos online, I think people are a little fearful where they think it's painful because it's like a lip tattooing, but it's actually not. There's no pain at all. So that she did a demonstration one day and people were really surprised that there's no pain involved with it at all. And then they also think that because it's a tattooing that it's permanent, but lip blushing is semi-permanent because the skin on your lips is different. And I don't want to say, I I don't want to misspeak because Shelby's not here, but the skin on your lip, I don't know the correct word, so I don't want to misspeak, but
I'm clearly not a professional in
Yeah.
this space, but it just regenerates or
Yeah.
like cycles through.
It only lasts like a couple of years at most. So
Okay.
it's not the same as getting a tattoo on your arm, let's say. So there's just a lot of education that comes into play that people don't realize, that it's not the same as getting a tattoo on your arm. So people are really surprised that it's not painful and that it doesn't last forever. So then they were like, oh, so yeah, a lot of people were like, oh, okay, well, I would actually like to do that. So yeah.
And I can see how that would lower potential barriers to like fear of permanence and then fear of pain.
Yeah. And then there really are a lot of plus sides to it, so that like if you're at the beach or if you're out, in the water, or you don't have to constantly keep reapplying your lipstick and you don't have to worry about smearing, and then they were like, oh, wow, this is actually really cool. So then a lot of people were like, yeah, I actually would love to do that. And then it looked really good. So yeah, it was great when she did the demo. The girl that got it done actually fell asleep while she was getting it. So I was even surprised. Okay, it doesn't hurt. So I was even surprised. So yeah. So education is a big thing with that too.
And then in terms of the plants, I imagine there's going to be some degree of education for novice plant purchasers.
Oh, yeah, all the time, because people come in and the first thing a lot of people tell me is, I kill all plants. And I'm like, well, then obviously somebody sold you the wrong plant. They didn't give you the right information on how to care for it. All kinds of things, how to water it, where to place it properly, sunlight, all kinds of things. So that just tells me right away that somebody just sold somebody a plant and didn't tell them how to care for it. And then they were left feeling like they weren't capable. So then they never bought any more plants. So yeah, education is big with that too.
So it sounds like that's one of sort of like the value adds you provide. Obviously, people can come in and buy plants, but not every location do they get kind of customized suggestions for what could work for them.
Right. That's a big part of it, is customer service and caring about what they're buying, and that they're not just going to go home and feel like a failure.
And does this feed into, I imagine, customer loyalty, right? They come, they buy something, and then they're likely to come back if they've been successful.
Right. And then I always tell people too that they can message me with questions later if they want to. And I answer. And I know some people tell me that at other plant shops, when they've done that, they've been told that that for a fee, they can be set up with plant care advice. And I just think that that's really if I've sold somebody a plant and then they ask me a question about how to care for it, I'm not going to tell them that for an extra $50 a month, I can provide them with plant care services if I've sold them that plant. So I've been told that happens here locally, and I sold them the plant. So obviously I should tell them how to care for it. So yeah, so I feel like that's a part of the customer service that should go along with it.
So that is definitely something that's rolled into the plant purchase that, again, it doesn't sound like it's common.
Yeah. So
where did you learn all about plants?
I mean, I am a 70s baby. So when I was a kid, my mom had plants all over in our house. And then just while I was growing up, I mean, I had plants, and now plants are cool again, and I've always had them. And so when I had a small venue before COVID, and it was really busy, and I had plants all over in it, and people would just come in and book parties and ask me about my plants. And I would, how do you get your plants to grow so large, and how are they so healthy? And I would just tell them. And then of course, when COVID began and we were in our stages of lockdown, my venue came to a screeching halt, and it sat empty for a very long time. And then it was time to close it. And so when I was sitting waiting to reopen my venue, my friend had the shop that I'm in now in Meridian, and she said, why don't you move over here and do something while you wait to reopen the venue? And so I moved in there to open a plant shop, because I thought, well, I'll sell plants while I wait. And then the plant store was doing so well, and I was having so much fun that I decided not to reopen the venue. So now I'm just sticking with the plants, and it just, I mean, everything happens for a reason, I guess. And so, yeah, it just kind of like it was meant to be. So,
And it sounds like it comes out of a place of passion. And I think a lot of people care that the person who's selling them something really cares about what it is that they're doing.
yeah. And it's a lot more fun, and plant people are a lot less stressful than people planning parties. So it's a better lifestyle. Yeah.
I never would have made that connection, but I could totally see how, right, like the specific context of buying a plant versus planning an event. Yeah, very different stress levels.
Yeah.
So how would you compare, can you describe your Meridian store a little bit, and then how the two are different, as well as the different types of people that shop there?
So the Meridian store is a little larger, not much, but a little bit. And I do share the space with my friend who makes custom wood signs. So it's two shops in one there. And the Meridian shop, I also offer people book plant parties there, which I'm trying to incorporate in the Boise shop as well, but it would just be on a smaller scale because it is a smaller location there. So the plant parties, what people do is they'll book the space during non-retail hours, and they'll bring in friends, and it's like a more intensive shopping experience where they come in and they pick out their plants in a pot, and then I have more time to work with them one-on-one on like proper plant care, planting tips, watering tips, and then we get into how to properly mix soil, what ingredients go into mixing the soil, when to replant, and that type of thing. And then they actually mix soil and plant their plants, and I help them do that properly, and it's a lot of fun. So in the Meridian location, we can have bigger plant parties, and people will actually turn those into sometimes like birthday parties or small bridal showers. So on my Coffee Plant Repeat Instagram, you can actually see in the highlight reel, there's videos of that saved, where you can see that actually happening out there. And the Meridian shop is a little bit different because like the Boise shop is painted all black, and there's like a neon sign, and it's like gold shelving and furniture. And the Meridian shop is a more airy feeling. It's like light gray walls and wooden furniture and more open, taller ceilings. So it's just a little different feeling than the Boise location. So, and it's like old downtown Meridian, like it's in the old downtown with the old buildings, and it's just kind of a whole different feeling than the Boise location itself.
Do you think you get more foot traffic there or in the Boise location?
In the Meridian location, much more foot traffic. It's people go down the old downtown for brunch and stuff. So I always, on Saturdays and Sundays, people have brunch, and then they'll have brunch, drink mimosas, and then come down and shop for plants after. So it's definitely the Boise location is a destination for sure. And Meridian, I can always count on people wandering around.
I'm sure there is still some drive-by seeing the location in Boise, but maybe less foot traffic. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. In Boise, it's more like people going to like bar to the classes and stuff that walk by, but it's definitely less foot traffic. Yeah.
So what have been the primary promotional approaches? Word of mouth, social media, those kinds of things? Okay.
All of my businesses I've had have been driven by Instagram and Facebook. Yeah.
And that typically works. And do you think that the very Instagrammable nature of your product helps a bit? Like, plants are just beautiful, right?
Yeah. And well, even when I had like my venue before, that was just always how I drove all of the business. I never used, people would come to me and try and sell me radio ads. And I mean, I feel like that's been dead for quite some time, so I've always just focused on social media. And back when stories were new on Instagram, and then it went to reels, and now I'm using TikTok. And so it's always been social media for me.
And so kind of a separate question about if you were trying to sell someone on a plant for the first time, like why should someone be interested in buying a houseplant?
Well, first of all, I mean, it adds life to your living space. I It's just a total game changer in your living space. I always tell people there's like the different elements of your space. You should have softness and then wood and glass. And then you should always add life of some sort. So it just total game changer. And for instance, like snake plants are the best air purifier. It brings a different vibe to your space. It's a happiness in your space. And that's when people start, when they tell me, well, if they travel, there's certain plants they can have where you water them once a month. And then I'll tell people it's super easy. You make your mortgage payment, you water this plant. It's no brainer. You don't have to do anything with it. It doesn't need a lot of sunlight. You don't have to worry about worrying to water it. So there's certain plants for people, if they travel or they forget, I've got a plant for that. If there's people that love to overwater and nurture things too much, I've got plants for that. So if you ask the right questions and find out what kind of caretaker they are, then you can find a plant. But I think that's the problem sometimes is people don't bother to ask what kind of person they are. If they love to completely over nurture and overwater, then you definitely wouldn't sell them a snake plant because they're going to kill it. So I think that's the problem sometimes when people buy plants is they don't know which one to buy and then they fail and then they get scared of buying anymore. So, and then that's how you start people's addictions is when you sell them the right plant, because then they feel successful and then but I have people come in and they're like, I bought my first plant from you and now I have like 40. So
That's an interesting angle about plant purchasing, right? This idea of success and I'm keeping this thing alive, and that has like a reinforcement mechanism to it that expands people's interest in subsequent purchases.
yeah, you have to show them that they can be successful, because if you don't and you send them home with a plant and then they fail, they're never going to want another one. Yeah, you have to find the right plant for the right person so that they are successful. Yeah.
It does sound like that's something that would set you apart from just sort of the standard buying a plant online or walking into a huge nursery and not having any of that interpersonal interaction or the ability to kind of have the plant tailored.
Right. I tell people if they're, if I ask them, where are you placing it in your home and what's the lighting like? And they're like, well, I'm not really sure. I'll even tell them, well, can you bring me back photos of the room or show me the lighting, instead of just sending them home with something that I'm guessing, because that's not going to do me any good in retaining them as a customer if I don't know what I'm sending the plant home to. I would rather them maybe not come back with the photos than have them spend $100 on a plant and a pot and everything and then have it die and then them be frustrated with me. I would rather them go home, get photos of the space, come back to me and have me sell the proper plant and have them be happy than have them not be happy. And I think that creates more of a trust with me and then builds a return customer for me. So I think people appreciate that.
That you actually care about the longevity of the plant.
And I don't want them to waste their money, and I have a pretty good customer base because people know that I care, and then I offer to let them message me if they have concerns or, that extra step.
It does sound again, shows that you care both about the plants and the customer, and it does sound rare. And so this is kind of like a premium experience that they're having. It is much more of an experience than just getting a product, right?
Yeah.
So final question for you. Any kind of broad lessons you've learned? You've had businesses over the years and you've mentioned that you use social media and that tends to work. And it sounds like you've got a very focused, customer orientation, just sort of any of that.
And the other thing with the social media too, that I didn't mention, when I do get my plant shipments in, I do this thing where, so like I'm going to pick up my new plant shipment tomorrow. And I have this, like my customers know I'll get my plant shipments in on Wednesdays. So I'll go into my stories more so on the Coffee Plant Repeat page than the Ink and Leaf. And they will watch. And on Wednesdays, I'll be like, here's the new plant drop. And I'll post everything that's coming in. And people know my business Venmo. And they'll instantly start Venmoing, I want that, because they know when the plants hit the shop on Thursdays, the new plants will start going. So sometimes I'll sell a good majority of my new plant shipment just through my stories on Wednesday night before I even open on Thursdays, just through. So that's how social media works really well for me.
And I can see an element of scarcity where it's a fixed number.
Yeah.
We'll think
Yeah.
it's going to go. Okay.
And they do know that there's only so many of each new plant. So they don't want to miss out. And they know that if they buy it through the stories and pay the shop Venmo, they can pick it up before the weekend and it's theirs. And they know I'm going to pick out the best one, and they trust me to pick out the best one of what's remaining. And I'll put it on the counter and I'll put their name on it, paid through Venmo. And then that way I've already got the sale. I've already got the money. There's no refunds. So I'm good. And they know they're good because they can wait and pick it up on the weekend. They're not going to miss out. And it creates that kind of fury, like I have to hurry up and get this or I'm going to miss out on this new plant. So yeah, that works really well. And I get all of the sales, and then they get their plants, and they go, oh, she's showing us what new plants are in this week. Venmo, Venmo, Venmo.
And I can see how that's a way to continually engage people, right? They're looking forward to the next drop.
Post, I literally get people going, wait, where's the new plants? Where's the new plants? Did you not get new plants this week? Like if the truck gets bumped or if the truck is late, I'll have people, wait a minute, where's the new plants? Did you not get new plants? And I'm like, oh no, sorry, the truck was late, or I got bumped to next week, because people watch and they wait. So
there really is a frenzy associated with it. That's really, yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
Well, any last comments or things you'd like to add?
I had more to say about Shelby Side, but I talked to her this morning and she has appointments over there today at the lip blushing. So she said, if you could just screen share the menu for her side, then you could get the prices and an idea of what she does too. And she does have like a video on the Ink and Leaf of the lip blushing and that type of thing to get an idea of that. So she's just she's booked out like months ahead at the salon, and then she has like one day off a week. So
I get it. Lots of plans on time. It does sound like there are a lot of resources on the website that will help give a sense of what are the services offered. And as you mentioned, it's okay for students to come and drop in the space. Should they identify themselves and say, hi, I'm in this class, or
they can't
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat. This is really enjoyable, and looking forward to working on this project throughout the semester.
Yeah, I did it too. It sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun.
Okay, let me